I remember you guys smashing my face into a cake and had black stained icing all over my face.
See, I have zero recollection of that. I don't remember that at all.
I'm pretty sure I have
I'll
pictures.
tell
I
you.
can pull them out.
You're listening to the Restoration Podcast.
Conversations of hope and healing.
Join us for real-life conversations and real-life stories. Our hope and prayer is that these conversations bring encouragement to your life.
Thanks for giving me time. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to reconnect regardless. So
Yeah. So you said you moved in 2012, right?
got my master's at Texas Tech University in conducting. Took 2 years to do that. Taught for 7 more years in the area, and then 2021, after COVID restrictions, the band program started shrinking, and just because of morale being low, not being able to travel. And I think I just decided between a couple of variables, like I didn't want to rebuild again. We were on a path to growth.
Right.
I didn't want to start over. But also just my kids, listening to other people's kids, not begrudgingly, but listening to all their problems out of my heart
Yeah.
to minister to them. It just made me really question what's really going on at my house as far as what my kids are dealing with, and felt like I
Yeah.
needed to be more available with time and emotion
Yeah.
to be able to be more available to them. And so getting into the mortgage business was a way for me to have more flexible hours, especially
Right.
as an independent representative. I set my own hours within reason, and just gives me that freedom that I need. So
Yeah. It's funny because I remember it was our senior year. It was my last year is when you and the head director at the time both decided to leave after that year. But I remember I didn't understand. You had mentioned it was to get a master's, and I distinctly remember one thing. This is so weird. And now looking at it as an adult and now as a parent, I understand. I remember at the time you had a really nice truck. At the time it was a nice truck. Now it's, an old truck. But I remember you got like a cash car. Do you remember this? You know what I'm talking about?
that car was terrible, let me tell you. But yes,
But I
it was a
remember you were
lemon.
like, oh, yeah, exactly. But you're like, oh, yeah, it's to save money and stuff. And I was like, I don't understand that. But now, as a parent, and after going through adulthood, now I understand. Now that made sense to me of why you have to do that sometimes.
We all have cash cars now. I don't know that I'll ever go back to at least to a full.
Right.
They just appreciate so fast too. Anyway.
Oh yeah. What is the saying? What is the number when you drive that new car off the lot? It appreciates how much? Is it 15, 20, something like that?
Yeah, it's pretty low. So
yeah.
Is it that, or is it just marked up that high? Who knows?
It's both.
Yeah.
It's an endless cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's both. That's so great.
I remember you guys smashing my face into a cake and had black stained icing all over my face.
See, I have zero recollection of that. I don't remember that at all.
I'm pretty sure I have pictures. I can pull them out.
I'll tell you what I do remember. What I do remember is we had like an officer training thing, I think, and I don't remember exactly what happened. But you wanted to be the cool. You wanted to be the cool teacher, and you're like, "Yeah, I'll have a go at it." And it was some kind of physical activity inside the band hall,
jumping of some kind. Yeah.
And you got injured.
Yeah, I strained.
And
we
were all like,
knee.
"Yeah," and then really quickly it went from yeah to oh, and then you were
it was bad.
You were injured. That I remember.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, it's funny though. It lives rent free in my mind. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Hey, but I thank you again for. I know you're busy. I know you have lots to do, and I appreciate you taking the time for this. Real quick, some of these people listening probably don't even know who this guy is. Who the heck is Jacob Faske? Which, by the way, I'm going to start out at the gate by saying I refuse to call you by your first name. I just can't do it. It's just
okay.
I can't.
I have the same. I have the same thing. So with my teacher.
Really? So you will be Faske. That's how I'm going to address you if I have to, just because I can't do it.
That's okay.
But anyway, can you just real quick tell our listeners and or viewers who you are, what you do currently, and then what our connection is?
Sure. So I'm Jacob Faske. I'm a mortgage loan originator. Work at Nexa Mortgage. I've been doing this for about 4.5 years. Previous to that, I was a band director for 19 years. And I think it was 2009 when I started
Yep.
at Pasadena. And so Aaron
Hmm.
was one of my students, and really good students, well-behaved students.
Okay.
wasn't one of the
You
ones
can
that
go on.
what
Continue.
wasn't well wasn't one of the ones that taught me the wrong words to say in Spanish.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they enjoyed like teasing me. So
Oh,
they're like, "Oh,
yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Foss, you shouldn't say that." I'm like, "Well, why did you tell me?"
Oh, that's your, all these memories are now flooding back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Very fond time. Of course, everywhere I've been has been special, but everyone's been uniquely special, And
Right.
I love what I loved about Pasadena is how well I feel like I fit in, even with such a diverse group of students. Um,
Right.
I mean, diverse as far as personal beliefs or whatever, and it was a special time for sure. So
Well, I'm glad to hear that it was a special time because I wasn't sure when I was thinking about this. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna like if it's gonna bring
no,
back PTSD. I don't know if it was a
no,
difficult
not at
season. I know it was
all.
a transitional season, but
Yeah,
um, and just a
no,
little
it was.
context for every yeah, a little context for everybody is so we had two band directors down there, and the previous two were there for several years together. That specific pairing. And so when I was a freshman, I was blessed to have those two teachers after several years of them teaching together. But then at the end of my freshman year, I'm class of 2012, they both, not just one, but both, it was the assistant first said, "Hey, I'm going to get my master's at Texas Tech," which was foreshadowing. We didn't even know it. And then the head director shortly after said, "Oh, I'm also gonna do something new. I'm not coming back next year." So we were left with two band director positions open, which is a lot. When you lose one, it's a lot, but when it's both, it's a lot as well. You did it for 19 years, you said,
Mm,
and so it was after our freshman year for my class. So that's when Mr. Foske entered our lives. It was him and then Mr. Coates, who we still communicate with as well on social
hmm
media. You guys came in, and I just have to say, I don't know if at the end of any of those 3 years, if either of y'all were debating around the fence, like, should I come back? Should I not? I have to say thank you, thank you, thank you to you and Mr. Coates, if you're watching or listening, for staying for those 3 years, because those were really pivotal years of my, youth years or whatever. And the consistency was so much appreciated. And I didn't even realize that until later, because not to get too much into the weeds, but I studied music ed. And so I heard all these horror stories of like, what we went through was hard because we lost the two directors, whatever. I just went through that. I heard horror stories of people like, "Oh yeah, we had a different director every year," and I'm like,
hmm
"No." Like,
Yeah,
so I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you for sticking around for
yeah,
3 years, and Mr. Coates as well. He deserves credit too. Y'all both stayed, and the
yeah,
consistency was what really helped, and so thank you for that.
yeah. I honestly, that was a really hard decision. When I moved
Hmm.
down from Dallas, I left another program where they were pretty devastated too. But that reason was to be closer to my parents, to come down to
Oh,
Pasadena.
okay, gotcha.
But this one was hard because it was a career decision, and I was kind of stepping out on faith on this because I'd kind of funny thing. I'll just say this real quick is um, I always like to keep myself in check. And is this me and my ambition, or is this really what I feel like God wants for me? And I
Right.
think it was like a year before I had laid down the desire to do masters. I was like, okay, if it's going to happen, it's going to be your timing, but I'm just gonna give it, put it at your feet. And then a year later, it just kind of opportunity came up, and it was one of the harder decisions to make because I wasn't unhappy. I was
Mm,
very happy with y'all, and I really enjoyed my
yeah.
growth while I was there. I enjoyed my student relationships. Closed a couple loans with some Pasadena students. Um, so, yeah, but it was a really hard decision.
Yeah.
I felt really close to y'all. So,
Well, and like what we did too, we were devastated.
mm,
Even though like we were graduating, but we were still sad.
yeah,
And then I know that there was all the classes after me which you really had a strong connection with because y'all started with them and whatever. And it's
Yeah.
difficult. Transition is difficult no matter what.
Yeah.
But I also applaud you for doing that for your career, which in fruition ended up being for your family. Which I then had. I didn't know this at the time, but I became a band director, and I had to do the same thing, a career change, and it was very difficult to tell my students as well at that time. So.
Yeah.
But I do remember that student relationships was one of your strengths as a teacher, and I believe that carried over into my teaching as well. So I taught for 4 years after college. This is not about me, but I taught for 4 years, and it's funny because when I looked back at how I taught, or when I self-reflected on teaching, I saw bits and pieces of all my band directors,
Yep. Same.
and I want to say the student relationship was definitely a Mr. Foskey thing. That was one of your greatest strengths. Even to this day, you're very present on social media, and so you're friends with a lot of us. And there's a lot of interaction. Even the simple things like telling us happy birthday on our birthday means a lot because it's like, oh yeah, Mr. Foskey from high school. And it's funny too because some of the students too that like some of the only memories I have from some of them and you are not great, but I'm just so glad that we put that behind us and now we can get along. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, but it's all in hindsight too, right? But like, I really do think that was your strength as a teacher. I mean, you're a great teacher too, great conductor, all that. But the student relationship part, really, I think definitely that was something I got from you, and it was rolled into my teaching when I did it for 4 years. Definitely, I was under your direction for jazz band, and then you were kind of our main like marching instructor as well. So I mean, it was the bond between band director and students is a unique one because y'all see us grow as musicians, as people. You see us mature, or some of us don't mature. But like you see it all, and it's again that consistency. And so thanks again for just being that great person. And so what actually happened to cause this podcast to happen is you put a post out shouting out your former students. You just said, hey, this is for
Yeah.
my former students. And so what made you do that? What made you want to post that out there?
Well, all right. You ready for this?
Oh no, is this going to take a turn here?
Yeah. I had a student at my, I won't say where,
Sure.
really great student, sweetheart, just always happy, smiling. So he made that decision you can't ever come back from. And it just devastated me because
Yeah.
I would have never known. No signs.
Right.
And I've been going through, I feel like God's been pressing into me about, I went through, I was back a few years ago, we had some church hurt, split, and just some things came out of that. And I
Yeah.
became incredibly cynical because of that.
Yeah.
Worked through some really dark things I didn't know were there. And so it's taken me a long time to kind of build trust back up. I think the lesson I learned from that was I always think about the thing that Jesus said about not casting your pearl before swine. And I think that the idea
Yep.
is that we just need to be discerning with who we give ourselves to. And so I've kind of been, leaning that way. But even more so, I think he's been leaning into me. Oh, the next step was I went through a 12-step program, not a traditional one. It's based on discipleship through healing. It's called regeneration. And so we went through the 12 steps, very similar to what we see in AA. And I had codependency issues I needed to work through. So I went through that. But a couple things that came out of that were really getting back to the idea of confession. I mean, I think especially in our churches, we have a very guarded, like we value our privacy. And I think because of, at least from my background is in churches are really bad about gossip, or can be.
Oh,
And
the
so,
worst. The worst. Yeah.
yeah. And so being able to confess some of the darkest corners of your life with people takes a lot of trust, right? So
Right.
I think, and I'll say this too, like there's a step for resentments and then making amends. And so when you work through your resentments, what you're doing is you're working on yourself, forgiving, not holding on to bitterness or whatever, so that you can approach somebody and say, I'm truly sorry for what I've hurt you. And you're basically receiving whatever they have for you, right?
Yeah.
So kind of with those kinds of things in mind, I realized I'd been guarded by the cynicism too, and there's people hurting that don't even talk about what's going on,
Right.
especially on social media where we celebrate the highs as we should, and sometimes we
Hmm.
share our tragedies, which we should too. But there's really nothing in the middle,
Yeah.
and it makes it hard it makes it easy to compare and
Oh yeah.
not have a realistic view of really what's going on. And um, so I went to that my student's funeral on that Wednesday. I went to our company meeting. This is a lot of time to think about it. And then just our conference was really good. Had really good speakers. There was a lot of repeating themes and some phrases that I had been thinking about that came up that I
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody about. So I took it as um, like a sign from God. I guess it's a
Yeah.
affirmation, right?
Confirmation,
But
affirmation. Yep.
yeah, and so some of the words were suffering servant was a phrase I've had, like suffering like Christ. Um, there was authenticity was a big one. Just
Mm.
being courageously authentic is what somebody said.
Yeah.
And so I know that I am big on being genuine and transparent as much as possible. And having kind of come out of a season of being cynical, I mean, the first thing I thought of during the funeral was I need to send this video to my students because they need to
Mm.
know that I'm still here for them, but also
Mm.
that y'all need to be like that they need to be there for each other because
Yeah, that's good.
I don't I know that everybody's on a different path of life, but like we've been through stuff together,
Right.
and I don't know. I just needed to put that out there, and so kind of a step 12 of kind of like sharing your story, right? I just decided to make more real content. And so I've been
Right.
putting a lot of
Yeah.
reels out about, hey, this is what I've come out of, or what, not what I've come out of, from a place of it starts with me. What is the problem with the world? Me.
Yeah.
Instead of, and that's talking about our struggles, our mental battles, our sin struggles, whatever you want to say,
Right.
but to also provide a place for people to relate, because I think the biggest thing is feeling like we're alone. And
Hmm.
so that's the reasoning for my content.
Mm. Yeah, and I love it because again, like you said, it's real. And our youth pastor here on staff, he has this great saying where he says that students of today, they're tired of the fake. They want real.
Hmm.
That's what they're seeking, whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of like social media and all that, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I'm really glad that I don't. Okay, I'm gonna choose my words carefully. I miss teaching tremendously, just to be transparent, and I've said it multiple
Hmm.
times. And I have faith. I really believe, Foskey, that the Lord created me to be a teacher. I believe that.
Hmm.
And as a pastor, I'm still teaching. It just looks a little
Yeah.
different, right?
Yep.
And I do have faith that the Lord will open that door for me again in the future.
Mm.
But what was I getting at? Oh yeah. So I miss teaching tremendously. Okay, don't hear me wrong, people. But I'm also kind of glad I don't teach today in this world where everything is on social media and there's
Hmm.
such easy access to everything. Because you mentioned it earlier about comparison, spirit of comparison. I can't imagine if I were still teaching and gave it my all and got all this, and then I see my friend 2 towns down with greater success, greater momentum, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's so difficult, especially in that band directing world. It can get so competitive and cutthroat.
Yes.
But also with students, with former students. I have former students that I now add because I'm not there anymore, and I've seen what you're seeing. I see the highs, but I see the lows as well. And I can't imagine, stepping up behind a podium with all that knowledge. And I don't know. I just feel like it's really difficult to do it today. What are your thoughts? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think that there's other reasons why I left the profession, but to your point, I'm still educating people in what I'm doing. Like that's why
Right.
I'm doing mortgage just to educate people on that. But there's been at least for me, part of my resentment, honestly, and I'm just going to be blunt. I don't necessarily hate football, but I became resentful because here we have all these COVID mandates. Hey, you need to sit 6 feet apart and wear masks when you're not playing. Yet we have full contact sports
Yeah.
acting like nothing's. And the kids, my students aren't dumb. They know that,
Right.
but they can't travel
Yeah.
on the bus. They can't do all the things. And so our numbers and our morale was just,
Yeah.
um, and so I think to me, it was like, I felt like I was perpetuating a lie. I'm not talking
Mm.
about whatever you believe about COVID because I was trying to
Right.
be
Right.
obedient,
Yeah.
but be consistent. If you're gonna say
Yeah.
we're doing these things, then do it. People can see through
Yeah.
malarkey, you know. And
Yeah.
so I struggled with that, and I was like, I can't perpetuate this. We're just kind of all supporting this lie that
Mm.
we're all kind of ignoring.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I mean, when I say the
Sure.
lie, I want to clarify. I don't want to offend anybody. Um, I mean that again, full contact sports, which would be a higher risk than
Right.
you know. So I don't know. I just thought it was a travesty, and I think it was fumbled
And I'm
bad.
sure I agree. And of course, like that was the first pandemic that any of us lived through. Hopefully, the
Hmm.
last. Um, but boy, did we learn a lot, right?
Hmm.
About
Hmm.
people's true colors and about and not to dive into that. And they had like shields and stuff. But I remember that. I forget that I taught during that, and that was a difficult thing. I was like, how am I gonna, and it was really difficult. And I think looking back, I 100% agree that it can take a toll on you when you're trying to grow a program and you're
Yeah.
having to meet all these standards and you turn and there's someone else not having to meet the same. I get it. It was a difficult time,
Yeah.
and like you said, it really killed momentum having to have to do all those things. It really made me appreciate pre-COVID time, right? Like
Seriously.
we didn't know how good we had it. You know what I mean? When we had it.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's what's funny about our lives. I didn't realize this, but you left Pasadena in 2012, and I did too because when I went to college, and then I taught until 2021, and you as well. I didn't realize that we have that kind of
Yeah.
parallel.
That's
And
cool.
just real quickly, you taught for 19 years. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Where
Yeah.
all did you teach? I know you're at Pasadena, but where else did you
Hmm.
teach at?
My first year, actually, when I graduated, there was a hiring freeze, so I didn't get to teach my first year. So that was 2003.
Wow, yeah, okay,
It was rough. It was rough. I went through an identity crisis. I sold cars
yeah,
for 2 months. I sold cars for 2 months. That's all I could take. Um,
okay,
and then I went back to, so I substituted to kind of get my foot in the door, hopefully.
yep,
Did a lot of band sub jobs. But actually, my first job was in Tyler, and I was living in
yeah.
Terrell. If I don't know where that is, on the east side of Dallas. So I was driving an hour and 15 minutes each way my first
Oh,
year
my word.
at a middle school. Um,
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. You just mentioned that. Please remember where you left off. So my university was in Springfield, Missouri. Okay, I'm not kidding. Our jazz instructor had a weekly lesson at UNT, and he would drive once a week.
that's insane.
And he like said he had it down to a T. He knew exactly how long it would take him. He's like, I couldn't take a restroom break. I couldn't stop. I knew if I left at this time, I would get there once a
Yeah.
week. That's made me think of
Yeah.
that. Sorry. All right,
That's
you
funny.
were saying you had a commute to Tyler.
Hmm. Yeah. I taught at Stewart Middle School for 1 year. I just couldn't do the
Okay.
commute, and my wife wasn't about to pick up and move to Tyler. And she had a, and we had, the
Yeah.
thing is, we had our first kid. I don't know how we did it because she was driving from Terrell to Arlington, dropping off our kid to our mother-in-law, my
Yep.
mother-in-law. And then, I mean, her
Uh,
commute was about an hour too, and I was an hour and 15. I mean, I don't know how we survived
right.
I mean, it was insane. A lot of book on
Yep.
tape, uh, or a CD, whatever. And then
Yep.
I only did 1 year there because that's all I could take, and then got into
Yeah.
Dallas ISD at Seagoville High School. Really good kids,
Okay.
really
Dallas
bonded
Ice.
with them
Yeah.
too.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, I think the reason why I left there too, besides family, was it was obvious that number wise we weren't going to grow, and I guess I can say this now. They kept poaching our middle school kids to like go somewhere else,
Mm.
and so we only had one feeder, and
Mm.
so it was like
Uh.
you're
Mm.
so I was going to
Yeah.
be stuck
Dallas
to
ISD is that's a bigger, tougher one too.
yes, but I loved the community,
Yeah.
loved the kids. That one was hard
Mm-hmm.
too, and then um, Pasadena for 3 years. Then I came to Tech, did my master's for 2 years. 2014, I taught in Coronado High School as an assistant. Did that for 4 years. Um, I think those kids and y'all would have got along great. I just reminded me a lot
Sure.
of just the same, And
Yeah.
then I did my last 3 years at Estacado High School, which was one classification lower, but it's still in Lubbock. Um, and that one was cool. It was on a different side of town, so to speak, which was my
Mm-hmm.
experience. Most of my experience was
Mm.
on the other side of town, um,
Yeah.
and loved those kids and had really great administrators. And what I was going to say, uh, did that 3 years. The first year, they hadn't gotten a sweepstakes in I don't know how many years on concert stage. Marching band, they finally got their first ones this year, so I'm really excited for them. But for
Oh,
their
that's awesome.
first year to get on stage, we got them their first year got them to get sweepstakes, so that was exciting.
Hmm.
Um, and then the following year, we were on our way to do it again, and then COVID hit. It's like right before we were going to go to contest, so it really sucked the air out of everything. So, but
And I bet it
so
was you sounded really good too, didn't you? Right before you went to that, right?
we were
Um,
getting there. We were getting there.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. That's and then you recently had a career change. We talked a little bit about
mhm.
that. What
Yeah.
made you decide to do that?
So I'm gonna. It was interesting because usually when I'm praying about a decision, I'm like, okay, show me the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole last year was really emotional for me because I
Mm-hmm.
knew there's a lot of good things happening in spite of what was going on.
Right.
Some things were gaining traction that not with members, but with other things. And
Right.
so all these accolades I was getting noticed for, or the kids were, or but it was just I was inside, I was dying, just realizing I
Mm.
can't do this anymore here. I was planning on retiring there, honestly, and COVID just
Huh.
kind of changed the plans. So the um, interesting thing with that is, I think about Paul's confessions about when he would go to certain missionaries, right? And sometimes he'd
Mm-hmm.
say he was prevented by the enemy, and sometimes he'd say the Holy Spirit prevented me, right? And so this was one of those things where, as I was praying, it was very clear to me that I felt led to, what do you want to do? Like
Yeah.
all these options. What do you want to do? You just can't do that anymore. That was weird. And I was like, I don't even know that I've been ever asked that. What do I really want to do? Like, because to me, teaching was about the ministry. But I mean, I love music, I love teaching, but it was
Oh,
when I made that
definitely,
decision to do that, it was about the ministry. That's that,
definitely.
I prayed with my students. I
Hey, you
mean, I
never
would,
paired with me. What the? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, it was just one of those things.
Actually,
Well, I think,
that's may not be true. I think that it happened a couple times. But sorry,
okay, well,
continue. My bad.
I think when I went to Coronado, it was just, I don't know, I just became more bold, I guess. And so
Gotcha.
I would
Gotcha.
always
Yeah.
offer to pray for kids and say, "Would you like me to pray with you now?" I only had, by the way,
That's awesome.
one time where a kid said no, ever, and not
Huh.
all of them were
Wow.
believers.
That's
So it tells you how
that
much
speaks
people
volumes right there.
covet your prayers, even if they're not, believers. So
Definitely.
It's a very intimate thing, you know, in the
Yeah.
highest way. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so as I was doing this, I was like, I just thinking about, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't feel qualified to do anything else. It's like, I have one very specific
Right.
niche degree. At my age, what am I going to do?
Degree. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, um, but I think as I was thinking through, I was like, I still want to help people. I still want to educate people. Maybe I can put them in a financially better place. I looked into some maybe insurance, and what I thought I was going to do is underwriting, as I was researching it, but I learned that it was really loan origination, or helping people get into a home with financing. Um, I like to say, hey, what do you do for a living? Explain it poorly. Like, I sell people money so you could buy a house.
Yeah. There you go. Genius.
But
Genius.
yeah. But I had a really good experience with my loan officer, who also was a former band director. Just had a good
Oh, very
experience,
cool.
and it just kind of had that connection. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that was just top of mind. But
Yeah.
my aunt is really a successful business person in the insurance industry, and I was asking her advice, and she's like, "Well, what did you enjoy about your job?" It's like, well, teaching and collaborating.
Oh
Those are my
yeah.
two favorite things, and I get to do all of that. I love collaborating, and a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
video stuff is collaboration. I love that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so I think it was one of those things where truly the Lord let me choose and blessed it. Wasn't
That's
easy
awesome.
necessarily, but He blessed it. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
then I think I remember your posting about it, career changing. Was family time a factor of that at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as I was like I said before too, like I've poured into other people's kids' lives, which I don't begrudge at all. I love it. I mean, y'all
Of
are,
course.
you know, but I think at some point I was like, okay, how much have I given my kid, my own children, the time that they need and
Mm,
the energy, the focus, right? Because I think at one point, one of my kids was just having a hard time doing his homework, getting it in on time. I'm like, it's the easiest thing, just turn it in. And so I was like, I'm tired of telling my students at school to do this and then come home and tell you. I shouldn't have to tell
just turn it
you.
in.
Yeah, exactly. So it was
Yeah.
one of those things. It was like I need to have more patience to really mentor my own kid instead of being frustrated with him
Yeah.
for the same things I'm frustrated with the students are. So,
No, that's awesome.
but
Yeah. No, yeah.
I really wondered like what is going on up here with them,
Yeah.
and hearing some of the, which this is something too. I'll say this: my life, my life probably was a cakewalk compared to a lot of the things that my students have gone through, and so in many
Oh
ways, my
yeah.
students have ministered to me. Um,
Yeah.
because I know some of the things they've gone through, and I've just been there to listen and love on them, and they're so brave,
Yep.
and I'm just,
Yes.
here to facilitate love. And so, in
Yeah.
some ways, my students
And
have been my,
yeah.
my heroes. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, and you definitely impacted my life personally, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here. You agreed to be on here. I really mean that. Not
yeah,
just in musical ways, but like I said, relation and just authenticity as well. So thank you for that. But I know you've impacted a lot of us because we still talk about you in a good way. I mean that.
yeah,
I mean that you come up quite often. I actually still. This is true. Every time I'm down in Houston, which is not very often, I always connect with two of my best friends, which both of them. They're both band directors now in Pasadena. You know who I'm talking
oh,
about.
yeah, yeah,
And you come up a lot. You do. And again, good stuff, funny stuff,
yeah,
but good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, sure. I
And
don't mind
so,
being,
you know, and what I wanted to say too about that is, you know, what I appreciated about you and what you taught me, which I then implemented into my teaching for the short season I did that was, you were the same to all the students. And like you had mentioned about Pasadena, it was a very diverse place, not just ethnicity, but like all kinds of backgrounds. All the students had all kinds of different beliefs, religions, backgrounds,
yeah,
upbringings, but you were constant to everybody. And I think that's really what helped the connections get deeper and more real. I mean, you had all
yeah,
kinds of students with completely backgrounds in yours. They'd still come to you for advice. They'd still come to you when they had a rough day. And the same thing happened to me when I taught in the small
yeah,
town I taught in. So thank you for setting that example. And I still see it, today as well. All of our different backgrounds. I love that we can still, get along despite our differences. And I think the world
yeah,
needs to see more of that today.
yeah, yeah. I think definitely. I think something that keeps me humble too is, just Christ met people where they were at.
Definitely.
And you got to turn that around of you must fit this box before you attend or you whatever. It's like no, just you
Hmm.
need to. I think that the only command he gave the disciples was follow me, and he taught them
Yep.
along the way. That's just kind of the
Yep.
mentality I've had of hopefully you can glean something from what I've gleaned from Christ myself. Hopefully the best
Hmm.
parts. So
Yeah, definitely. Have you had any other, maybe not music teaching, but musical, like playing opportunities since post band directing life? Are there any ensembles or anything that you
mm,
play with?
yeah, so that this may shock people. I don't know. Just be honest. Part of the codependency thing. I felt like there was this pressure to always perform, and that's part of my issue of
Huh.
growing up in an uber religious background is performance, performance, performance. And so that voice of, hey, you need to be practicing 3 hours a day with your trumpet and then learn all the instruments and then score study, and then conducting, and it never shut up ever. And
Mm,
it became too much for me to maintain and also provide the time my family needed. And so I actually prayed for God to take the desire away if that's not what I was supposed to do, and He did.
wow.
And I
Wow.
haven't picked up my trumpet since. Recently, I've thought about it, like doing some like jazz stuff, but like I don't.
Yeah.
Um, I think the other thing too is like I wanted to pursue so many other things. I didn't let myself because I felt like I needed to focus all that time on developing my musicianship. And so now I do like I love woodworking. Um, I love
Yeah. There
archery.
you
Like
go.
there's other things I've taken up. I love lifting weights.
That's
I love
cool.
it. And so there's things that I didn't give myself time or mental time to do that I do now, and I
Hmm.
just don't. You can only say yes to so much, and because of that, I let it go. I still love
Yeah.
listening to great and talking about music literature, uh, which I'm learning is a very it's a shrinking circle as far as like, hey, have you heard? What do you think
Yes,
of
it
this
is. Yes, it
Persichetti
is.
piece? Like who? So,
Is he on
it's
TikTok? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I saw a funny one on. Do you know who Glenn Gould is? Piano
Yeah.
player. Yeah, so I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen video of him, but he's like talking to himself. Blah, blah, blah. Somebody, what I love was somebody imitated him playing piano and talking to himself. But I love the tagline. It's like, I have absolutely nobody to send this to. I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. I love this, but nobody
Yeah.
can relate because it's so niche. But
You're right. It's a shrinking circle. Yeah.
but
Definitely. Yeah.
I love literature and I love talking about how music is constructed, and I still love that, and I still have my
Yeah.
favorite pieces that I listen to. But I think performing, it's just for now is a different place. So,
Yeah, and I think also too sometimes, and it's usually musicians that fall into this. It's not always musicians. It can be athletes too, artists, I guess,
hmm
creative people. Is that we can sometimes inadvertently and not intentionally make our identity that one thing. Like,
yeah.
oh,
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
only as good as my last performance. I'm only as good as my, and I think, it's bold to be able to, that's a dangerous prayer, by the way. What you prayed
Yes.
is, if I'm not supposed to, but I mean, look at how much more you've been able to do. And I
Yeah.
bet you right now, if I asked you to go pick up your trumpet, you would be able to play, a couple bars and blues in B flat or something. Like it's like
Probably.
riding a bike, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
The lips
real
probably wouldn't
quick,
last that long, but yeah. Yeah.
real quick, funny story actually that I just remembered. You actually, and I don't know because, like I said, the directors we had my freshman year, we only had them for 1 year. But you and Mr. Coates introduced us or told us how we could go to state solo and ensemble. We didn't know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm sure the previous directors did, but we just didn't know about that. So that was a whole new world. The other thing that was a whole new world was all region jazz band. We didn't know that. At least I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember you took us to the auditions, you took us to the clinician stuff, you were at the concert, you were there, you were very present. So this is what's funny. And it's more of a story about me. Okay, it's not much
Okay.
about you, but what I'm getting at about you is that you were present there, you introduced us to that. Great. First of all, let me remind people, and actually some people may not know this. I'm actually a French horn player by heart, and the way I word this, Foske, is I believe that the Lord either created me to play French horn or the Lord created the French horn for me to play. Seriously, like it's like I
Okay.
mean a hand in a glove. It's a perfect fit. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about me. Anyway, so we went to the All-State Jazz audition, okay? And the way they did it was they had us go to this host high school and they had recording booths and they would play the changes. And part of the audition was there's two parts. One was they had a couple etudes and they told
hmm
us the cuts, play from here to here, you record us, right? No problem. I loved reading music. That was a strength of mine, whatever. You know what I'm getting at? Okay,
Yes.
then the other part of the audition was improvisation, which is
Yep.
huge in jazz. Okay,
It is.
I'm a classically trained French horn player. We don't do much improvising. Okay, however, one of my best friends, Oscar, who I mentioned, fantastic, and I say this, one of the
Oh yeah.
greatest musicians I know personally. I mean, the guy is incredibly, insanely, ridiculously, stupidly gifted. I mean, phenomenal. Like he's so good at everything, including improvisation. He just picked it up
hmm
like nothing. And
Yeah.
so he was there, and I go in and I do the etude, whatever. And then it's time to record the improv solos. And so I go in the booth to record my improv solo. They play the changes. I kid you not, I could only find 2 notes that worked. I remember what they were. It was an
That's
A
funny.
and an E. And I
Yeah.
literally went back and forth the 2 notes, and I
Yeah.
finish. I get out of the booth, and Oscar, being 100% genuine, another very authentic person, totally being encouraging, totally not trying to be funny at all. He looks at me.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, that was great. Were you warming up?" And I was like, "No, that was my audition." I said, "No, that was my
That's
improv
funny.
audition."
That's funny.
I didn't make it. Um, and then he didn't either, but he was really close. I think he was like 2 away from making the All-State jazz
Oh
band,
yeah.
if I remember correctly. He was really close, really, really
Yeah.
gifted, really good. But so you mentioned music and how you still are a listener of it. I saw a post about your running music. What is it you run to? Was it a Transformers soundtrack or
Oh my
something? What was
goodness.
it?
I have a
What was that
rotating
about?
list. So I have,
Okay.
let me show you. I have a 90s grunge list. That's what I lift to. So like I listen to like Pearl Jam, STP, Alice in
Yeah.
Chains. Those are my favorite, you know. Um, I have an 80s list that's more for my driving. I have my running, it depends. Running sometimes is my 90s or something I'm nostalgic about. Like you have to understand when the Transformers movie came out, and I'm talking about the animated one in the
Yeah.
80s, right? I'm dating myself here. That album changed so many young boys' lives. Like it just like I mean, I watched the movie. I bless my dad. I tell him thank you all the time. I was like, Dad, I know that was probably painful for you, but that was a really important movie for me. And we went straight to because it was in the mall, right? And we went straight to
Yeah.
the record shop, and I bought the cassette. It
Very
was that
cool.
impactful. That music is
That's
phenomenal.
awesome.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a yeah.
The reason
But
I
that
ask is because I connected to that post because you had shared it and you're like, make fun of me all you want. I'm a kid at heart.
I
Because
am.
I also first of all, I'm a kid at heart too, but I also have been trying to get into fitness and running and all that, staying in shape, taking care of yourself, right? And
Hmm.
so when I run, it depends. My running playlist goes all over the place. I
Yep.
mean, I've got everything from 70s, which I recently discovered, which is probably one of my new favorite eras of music, by the way. I didn't realize how
Which
many
bands?
great, well-known songs were from the 70s.
Yeah. Who
Well,
are your
I don't know
faves?
about which bands, but
Okay.
I'm going to look right now. But what happened was we had an event here at the church, a ladies' event, and the theme was 70s.
Okay.
And so I didn't realize how many great songs came from the 70s or how many great bands came from the 70s.
Hmm.
So Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Bee
Oh
Gees,
yeah.
ABBA, Village People, and then Cheap Tricks, Surrender.
Yeah.
Um, I had no idea. And
Yeah.
so I go from that um, to like Hans Zimmer scores to
Yeah.
marching band songs
Yeah.
to Tchaikovsky to um,
Yeah.
stuff from musicals. It's all over the place. And
Yeah.
so when I saw your post, I was like, I can connect with that. Like I get it because it depends on what mood I'm in, right? Like
Exactly.
if I'm trying
Exactly.
to finish that third mile, I'm like, gosh, I got to put on
Yeah.
Surrender or something. Like I need it. It's
Yeah.
different than a jog or working out. My stuff for like lifting or weight training or whatever, that's mostly just stuff I like to listen to. Like
Hmm.
that's a lot of Christian stuff, a lot of Christian hip hop
Yeah.
or stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I tell you that my fastest paces are with classical music. So like
Mm.
what does that tell you
Interesting.
about me and what connects with
Right.
me, right?
Yep.
And so, but speaking of that too, the orchestral thing, real quick. I remember I fell in love with orchestral music when I was in high school. I had
Hmm.
no, I didn't know about that because we didn't have a orchestra class at our
Hmm.
school. But I remember when I made Region Band, y'all were like, "Hey, you play an orchestral instrument," and I was like, "No, I don't. It's a French horn." They're like, "No, trust me, those are in
Yep.
orchestras." And so they said, "You can also participate in the all region orchestra." I will never forget the first time I went. I went to it was like a wind only rehearsal hosted at Deer Park, and I was like, "This is cool. This is different, right?" But I was confused. I was like, "Why is there so few wind players?" I didn't understand at the time, right?
Yep.
Then when I went to the first rehearsal with everybody, with the whole orchestra at Foskey, I my oh my goodness, like
Yeah.
it was like heaven on earth for me. I had
Yeah.
never experienced that, and
Hmm.
being in the ensemble, I even remember we opened with Aaron Copland's Outdoor Overture,
Hmm.
and there's a moment when there's this motif being thrown around by all the instruments, and it keeps stacking and stacking, and then there's one final note that just
Hmm.
lifts. And I remember the clinician said, "Let that hit that note and let it just resonate. Let the sound
Hmm.
waves hit the ceiling."
Hmm.
And at that moment, I was like, okay, this is
Yeah.
my thing. Like I
Yeah.
love this. And I remember it was you came up to me actually face to face, and you were like, that was after the concert. You said that was a great concert. This was a great program. And I was like, oh, Foske was there. That's cool. And so ever since then, I fell in love with orchestral music. And then even when
Yeah.
I got to college, I was so thankful for orchestras and being able to play all
Hmm.
that repertoire as regularly as I could.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was. That's I'm an or I mean I love band music too because I was a band
Yeah.
director. Of course, you gotta love Holst, you gotta love all that Alfred Reed.
Hmm.
But there's something different about that orchestral music.
Yeah.
Like it
I
just
get it.
it resonates with me, and it helps me run faster miles, evidently. But
The way you described that, when I was we didn't have jazz band in high school, but when I first
oh
played with a jazz ensemble in college, I was like, oh, this is me. So
wow,
I relate to that. So
do you remember
there's
any
just
of the
something.
any of that repertoire? Was it a swing? What was it?
It was definitely swing. I think the idea of like rhythmically, the thing I love about swing, especially like heavy swing, is like how far can you delay this without breaking the beat?
Yeah, you
And
can't
it's
do that in
it's
band
like
class.
no, well, it was like you have to understand too. I had a lot of I think as a teenager I had a lot of inner anger, and so jazz was
Okay,
like very defiant. I
break
hate to say it that
break
way.
kind of very naughty. Yeah.
Yeah, but it became a passion. I mean, after my first year of jazz, like I'd go to the library and listen to jazz all the time, and fell in love
Yeah.
with some really great literature. Um, it just there's something about Count Basie and Duke Ellington specifically.
Oh my
It
goodness.
just it
Yeah.
just it hits a way that's hard to replicate. You know,
Yeah,
unless
it
you've
is.
actually.
Yeah, and
Go
I
ahead.
have you to thank again for that as well because you were a jazz director. I really didn't know much about jazz, and then when I got in there, I learned, and I'm thankful because then I was able to do that in college too. I went to a smaller private university. The jazz director I mentioned earlier, he was our jazz director at Evangel University. Actually, tragically, he passed away. It was a
Hmm.
tragedy of a car accident, and
Oh
I
man, I'm
still
sorry.
can't believe he's gone.
Yeah,
Thank you. I still can't believe he's gone, but
yeah.
he lived and breathed for jazz, man. But he loved Count Basie. That was like his
Hmm.
favorite. I mean, he knew all the styles, but he loved a Count Basie chart. He
Yeah.
loved teaching us how to do things, play things correctly, and all that. And so I was just so thankful that I had that jazz experience from high school to
Hmm.
carry over and just grow more into. But that was always a highlight of the day too. In high school was that jazz band after lunch. I'm now looking back as an adult, I'm like, we were probably a little crazy, wound up after lunch, coming
Oh,
in
I
like.
loved it though. Y'all were great. Like the thing I loved about it too is you're reaching some pinnacles of teaching, especially in a high school when you can allow students to be
Definitely.
self sustained. Y'all had a lot of sectionals where I just let y'all kind of work together, and I think for the
Yeah.
most part y'all were pretty productive. I just kind of pop around, but you know, trying to let and I carried it on to. By the way, I carried it on to Coronado, and I would just let them start the warm up. It's like y'all are responsible for it.
Nice.
Here's the time, and they got really good at it. It's amazing what you can do
Good.
when you allow empower students who want that responsibility to take ownership.
Definitely.
One more thing about jazz, I love Herbie Hancock too, and I didn't
Oh
realize
yes, I
how
love them.
amazing he
Yes.
was. And so I got a bucket list thing, but I also got to take students with us. So he was playing in New Mexico, which is just across the border
Oh
from
my
us.
gosh,
And so,
that's
man, talk
amazing.
about guys in his 70s, and he's still like the joy on
He's
his
still
face when he
jamming.
plays. Yeah, and it was a special trip. Like,
I mean,
that's
Doc Severinsen was playing in his 90s too. Like,
yep,
I hope I'm able to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I actually do have one regret. Maybe you remember this. It was a jazz festival at TSU, and
mm,
the guest artist was John Faddis. I don't know if you
yeah.
remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I don't know what possessed my mind, but I was like, I'm not going to go to the concert. And to this day, I
Hmm.
still regret not going. But it did get made up for when I went to college because we went
Hmm.
to Temple University Festival, and I
Hmm.
remember my first year it was Wayne
Temple's good.
Bergeron, and I was like, Wayne. I mean, come on, Wayne Bergeron.
Yep.
And then other guest artists were Ernie Watts was amazing
Hmm.
too, and then we actually hosted Kim Parker. Charlie Bird's daughter came and she
Nice.
was a guest artist and sang. And then my favorite artist we had at my university was Steve Weiss. Oh my gosh, I was
Oh,
just
yeah. He did one of our
phenomenal.
he did he did one of our region jazz bands.
Yeah,
Well, I think it was in Pasadena.
that's amazing.
I think
I
no,
can't
it was
remember.
Dallas. It was Dallas. Sorry. Yeah, it was
I would
Dallas.
have remembered. I would have been embarrassed. No.
Well, it was cool. It was actually kind of a double header because it was Steve Wiest and another guy. His name is Stockton Helbing, drummer, phenomenal, and they did a great job. It
Oh
was
yeah, he
because we
came.
had
He came to
two jazz
Evangel
bands.
too.
Yeah,
He came to Evangel. He had
he's
really
a cool
cool
cat.
original stuff. He
Hmm.
was phenomenally talented. Like you
Yeah.
know those people, and you've ran into them, especially teaching in Texas, where you're just like the amount of talent you have is just so insane. Like.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
is that possible? How can one
Yeah.
person be so talented? But that is
Yeah.
actually another thing I miss about teaching band is those connections with these
Hmm.
phenomenal artists. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's phenomenal real estate like moguls too, but like it's I don't know.
Nah.
It's
Yeah.
not quite the same.
No, not the same. But yeah.
Yeah, but Foskey, thank you again so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciated it. Thank you for your authenticity and just
Yeah.
for just being yourself, being consistent. Before you go, though, maybe some of our old Pasadena friends or maybe some of your students will watch this. Do you have anything you want
Yeah.
to say to them?
I love you guys. Always have. Miss you too. Yeah.
You mentioned in your post, or I mentioned your post saying reach out to me. I saw lots of comments. Hopefully students reached out and sent you messages too. And I do want to say this too. I know it was a really heavy moment earlier on about what uh, brought that on, but I really hope that former students of Mr. Foskey and people that just know you will take advantage of that and reach out to someone when they're
Yeah.
struggling or reach out to someone if you're depressed. So if you're listening now, you're depressed or you're feeling low, tell somebody. Find someone you trust.
Yeah.
Find someone that you can confide in. Just tell somebody,
Yeah.
and know that you're loved, right? And
And
know
you're not
that
alone. You're never alone.
know that you're not alone. And just find someone, tell someone. So yeah, Foskey, I really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to
Thanks.
selling people money.
For
Is that what you
money.
said?
Yeah.
All right, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for listening or watching the Restoration Podcast.
If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe.
If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please add the show to your library. We'd also appreciate a review.